Good evening, folks, and thank you for coming in. Just a few quick things before we get going. That back door exit, please refrain from using that. If you have to leave the room, please use that door. And before I get that going, I'll have Chief Lapierre explain where all the fire exits are.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know already, the door back there where the fan is the one that Bill told you not to use. In the event of an emergency, that is the only time you can use that door. Of course, the door that you came in, back here in the corner, is also an emergency exit. And is that going to be open, Mark? Okay, so there's also an emergency exit in the, they call it the kids' store. There's an emergency exit there as well. Also, in the event that if we need an automatic external defibrillator, there is one 3/4 of the way up the hallway on the left-hand side hanging on the wall. Other than that, let's have a great meeting.
Thank you, Rich. And before I go any further, I put my cell phone in my vehicle, so could we turn off all the cell phones, please? Because every time I have it with me, I forget to turn it off, and it's really embarrassing. So with that said, welcome to the special meeting for the town of West Brookfield. Madam Town Clerk, is there a quorum? With the time being 6:32 and a quorum is present, we will begin our special town meeting of today, June 4th, 2024. Heather, may I please have the warrant? Thank you. The return of the warrant shows it was properly served by a constable of the town of West Brookfield on April 3rd of 2024. And with that, may we salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a brief moment of silence. Thank you all. I would like to now introduce our town clerk, Heather Goh, and her assistant, Ann Goward Hamp. Our Board of Selectmen, the Chair, Mr. Roland Sicklenberger, Mr. Aaron Von Blinken, and Mr. Brad Merkel. Our Town Administrator, Mr. Ron Santangelo. And is Beth here yet? No? And the Assistant to the Select Board, Mr. Santangelo, Beth Gobey. Did I pronounce that one right? I got it, huh? Our Advisory Board, the Chair is Laurie Laughlin. The Vice Chair is Cami Lamika. Mr. Ron Garceau, Mr. Michael Audette, and new member, Mr. Don Moberg. Thank you for coming in. This special town meeting is going to consist of 5 articles. And our objective tonight is going to be the same as it should be, is to be fair in our deliberation, efficient and effective in our action, and we will have, that's for the annual, so I'm sorry. Before we proceed, I will move that the meeting allow the following to sit with the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ron Santangelo and Heather White, Town Council. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I move that the meeting allow the following non-residents to speak at the meeting. Donna Allen, our town accountant, Mr. Ron Santangelo, Mr. John Madden, Heather White, Mr. Jim Daly, Police Chief Nathan Haglin, Amy Argo, Kelly Hitt, Steve Duff, Don McCall, and Kelly Pakriri. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none. So just some brief rules to get us going. If you wish to speak, please rise and I will recognize you. Please begin by stating your name clearly so that it can be recorded. Although there is no time limit, Please limit your queries and your remarks to about 3 minutes out of consideration to others who may also want to speak. And again, I kind of like this one. It's from a very old document. Town meetings are very special. The people have a right in an orderly and peaceful manner to assemble and to consult upon the common good and instruction to their representatives. So with that, we shall move to Article 1. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $18,600 from free cash and $47,400 from the water surplus account to supplement appropriations previously voted under Article 4 at the annual town meeting of June 13th, 2023, for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. The sums are as follow. The OPEB study, $5,850 from free cash. The electrical inspector's fees for new solar fields, $12,750 from free cash. Total free cash, $18,600. Tank level radio ride tech for the water department, $20,400 coming out of the water surplus account. Water department budget, $27,000 from the water surplus account. The total water surplus, $47,400. Advisory board,
Advisory Board recommends approval.
select board,
Select Board recommends approval.
is there any discussion? There be none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Article 2 is unpaid bills. Now, this vote is going to take a 9/10 vote. So that's a pretty big level to meet. I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $13,133.61 to pay the following unpaid bills of previous fiscal years, and to meet said appropriation, transfer the sums from free cash and current year appropriations as follows. $63 to the Worcester District Attorney's Office, $420 for Century Uniform, $6.61 West Brookfield Town Treasurer's Office, $12,644 for Fire Equipment Safety Grant, and that is to eliminate the deficit on the fire safety account. Total would be $13,133.61 total unpaid bills. Advisory,
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? MJ, could you please state your name? You did this last year, MJ, come on.
MJ Hashi Architect. I have a small invoice into the building department that's never been paid, and I didn't hear it on the list. I understood that it was coming to town meeting, $310. I give a lot of time for free. I don't invoice very often.
Would you like to make a motion to change this article?
I would like to make a motion to add that amount.
Heather, would
It's
you
been
have
over a year.
Yep. Do you need a pen, MJ?
Pardon?
Do you need a pen? MJ, within your motion, could you suggest where the funds are going to come from, please? Free cash?
Oh, MJ.
My apologies for taking the time, but I make a motion that MJ Hashi Architect be paid $310 out of free cash for an invoice that was sent to the building department work performed at the request of Jeff Taylor.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion passes. Get back to our article. Is there any discussion, further discussion on the article? There being none, all in favor? Opposed? The motion passes. The article passes, I'm sorry. Article 3. It was 300 and what? Was there a change?
We tend to speak things. We should apologize to them because we should have.
And the motion that she made was 310 and what? Blank, and who was that for?
That's all.
Who was that for? Building? It's gonna be free cash, but. Okay. Folks, I'm just gonna reread the article with the change made. So I would be moving that the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $13,343.61 to pay for the following unpaid bills from the previous fiscal years, and to meet said appropriation, transfer the sums from free cash and current year appropriations. There was $63 for the Worcester District Attorney's Office, $420 for Sentry uniform, $6.61 for the West Brookfield Town Treasurer's Office, $12,644 for fire equipment, and $310 out of building. And that is going to come from free cash for the total on the article of $13,343.61. So just as a formality, all in favor? Sorry. I'm sorry, sir? $433?
I think advisory. 430, 440, 440, 443. Yeah, I told you. Look at it.
I need to adjust that amount. The total amount on Article 2 to be paid is $13,443.61. All in favor? Oh, hang on. Mr. Fruit. Free cash. When I reread the motion, I said it was free cash. Yes. Yes, Michael. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, Article 2 passes. Article 3, other post-employment benefits, OPEB. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $100,000 to the other post-employment benefits trust fund, and to meet said appropriations, transfer the sum of $100,000 from free cash to such fund. Advisory?
Advisory recommends approval.
Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? Yes, dear.
Hi, it's Barbara Portel from Highland Trail. So my question is, if this is coming from free cash, it seems to me that this is not a budgeted item. Can you clarify whether this, because this is an ongoing expense? Every
Advisory.
year, the liability is revalued, and it should be an ongoing expense. I just want to understand how this is not factored into the underlying budget.
Does advisory want to answer that one? Or Selectman?
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Mr. St. Angelo?
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're right. It is something that we should continue to fund every year, but we don't know if we will or for how much, depending upon how much free cash we have. So that's why it's put in free cash, because we don't know for sure if we're going to have funding to do it. It's a trust fund that we're trying to build up for the future. And the more money we have in free cash, the more we like to keep contributing to this account.
And can you just tell me, do you know what the funding level is? Is it 100% funded? Is it? do you have any idea?
No. We're not even close to 100% funded.
Yeah.
Most towns have a huge liability when it comes to OPEB. Just for people understanding, OPEB is other post-employment benefits. It's essentially the money we pay for retired health insurance, for anybody who's retired. That's what it's for. But I don't know the exact, maybe John Madden would know the exact amount we paid into that trust fund, or the percentage of that, the total liability we're at, but I don't have that with me tonight. But it's a small amount, it's not a big percentage.
Yeah. I'm good, John. Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? There being none, the motion passes. Article 3 is approved. Article 4 is a creation of a water enterprise fund. I move that the town will vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half of the Massachusetts General Law, establishing the Water Department as an enterprise fund effective for the fiscal year 2025, which begins July 1. Proposed by the Water Department. Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is no opposed. Article 4 passes. Article 5, and at this particular point, I would like to introduce, because it's a brand-new board of the capital planning, Mr. Dave Brown, if he's here. Good evening, Mr. Brown. You're going to do this again in about an hour.
Yes, so I'll explain for this Article 5, this is our special town meeting. We also have 3 articles related to capital expenditures on the annual town meeting agenda coming up in our next session. For this one, I just want to give you a little background. Recall this committee was voted to be created at our meeting here last year. We've since formed the committee. We're fully staffed out at 5 very capable people, and we started on the task of managing capital investments, short-term and long-term for the town. By capital, let's understand that capital is any project or purchase over $10,000 with a useful life greater than 5 years. So that includes, for example, the vehicles and equipment for fire, police, highway. It includes projects like paving projects up on North Main Street, which was a significant recent one. It would include buildings in town, the town hall, the library. So our group is trying to get our heads around all of the needs for all of these big ticket items, particularly for the first 5 years and ultimately for probably 10, 15, 20, 30, because some of these items have a very long useful life. But to cut this short for now, one of the things that we feel that we need to make this work, the notion of stabilization. Needs come and go, emergencies happen, and we, along with the selectmen and the advisory board, have recommended that we create a capital stabilization fund, which is, think of it as a savings account where we can manage and modify our needs over time. This fund could grow even greater. When we talk about big ticket items, there are highway trucks that go $500,000, there's fire trucks that go for $500,000 or more dollars. This gives us some stabilization for those big purchase items. Finally, what I want to say is as we vote for this article, we're not asking you for permission to spend this money tonight. We're asking you for permission to put this money in the bank tonight. In order to spend this money, it'll be attached to an article with a purpose, and we'll come back to this floor and look for a 2/3 approval to do any project out of this fund.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, this article requires a 2/3 vote. Under our bylaws, any vote that requires 2/3 vote has to be by secret ballot. Would anyone care to make a motion to suspend the secret ballot? Is there a second? All in favor of suspending the secret ballot?
Aye.
Opposed? Secret ballot has been suspended. I move the town establish a capital expenditure stabilization fund and further appropriate the sum of $150,000 to the stabilization fund, and to meet said appropriation, transfer the sum of $150,000 from free cash to such fund. Advisory,
Advisory recommends.
Select Board,
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
On the credit cards.
all in favor? Excuse me, any discussion?
My borrowing phone is text my husband.
Article 5 of the special.
On the special,
It should be, Pam, it's entitled Articles Capital Stabilization Account.
How do we have the capital?
why do we,
Yeah.
oh, this is the old,
Early,
this is the old one.
this is an early.
Water surplus, what happened to that?
Huh?
Is this the early one?
Oh, I'm very stressed out of it. It's got all my credit cards in it.
It's not a small phone. It's not like,
No. No, I'm trying to avoid that.
They skipped an article.
Oh, my phone's at home.
Nope,
This is not the last one.
You can reply if you want.
water fund.
I don't know how to do it. Thank you very much. Okay,
I'm confused.
okay, can
This is
breathe
not,
again.
this is the article that I just gave you.
This capital stabilization.
That's not the one you
wasn't
posted
on
that we
here.
had to repost the second time, remember?
Right.
It was an early posting of one set, and then later on, we gave you the updated special post. Is that the old one, the first one? So where'd that one come from? This is the last one you said it again? What the hell is that? This is not the one I gave you. I don't even know what this one is. This had April 3rd. This is an old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is not the one that's posted.
Even then I have a special
Can't get on my website.
My head was not in the game yet.
Yeah,
But then this one's a landline, so I cancel all those credit cards.
yeah, that was, this was from an old,
let me tell Bill it's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a, go figure, that paperwork glitch. Our town clerk is running up to town hall. There's a discrepancy in Article 5, maybe. So she's going up town hall to get a copy of the original warrant. So you might as well take 5. But please
Talk
don't,
amongst yourselves.
please don't go running around town. You got me? Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, we'll burn a little bit of the time while we wait. There's been a question, evidently I misspoke. Mr. Frew had a question about where the money for Article 2 was all coming. When I first read the motion, I had read that the $12,644 for the fire equipment safety grant was coming under current appropriations. When I read the final motion, the motion to amend and then the final motion, I misspoke, and Mr. Frew asked me if everything was coming out of free cash. I acknowledged that it was, and it is not. The $12,644 is coming out of current appropriations. Everything else is coming out of free cash. So, with that being said, I will reread the motion and we'll vote one more time. Third time's a charm. So Article 2 is I move the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $13,443.61 to pay for the following unpaid bills of previous fiscal years, and to meet said appropriation, transfers sums from free cash and current year appropriations as follows. $63 for the Worcester District Attorney's Office, free cash. $420 Century Uniform, free cash. $6.61 West Brookfield Town Treasurer's Office, free cash. $12,644 Fire Equipment Safety Grant out of current appropriations. $310 for building out of free cash. The total is $13,443.61. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, folks, and we'll get back.
Town clerk has verified that the correct agenda was posted. What has simply happened is the wrong special town meeting was copied. So it is correct on the board in town hall, and it was on the way to the handout tonight was wrong. It's an older version.
Okay. Is Pam still here? Did you hear that? Okay, are you all set with that? Okay. She'll bring it back. If it's not, I'll say something. So Article 5. Ann, are you sitting in for? Okay. Article 5, I move the town establish a capital expenditure stabilization fund and further appropriate the sum of $150,000 to the stabilization fund, and to meet said appropriation, transfer the sum of $150,000 from free cash to such fund. Advisory. Select Board. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor. Again, this is a 2/3 vote, and the secret ballot has been suspended. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would entertain a motion to dissolve the special town meeting of June 4th, 2024. Is there a motion to dissolve?
I make a motion. So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, this special town meeting is dissolved. All right, welcome to the annual town meeting of the town of West Brookfield, today, June 4th, 2024. Before we get started, I will have Chief Lapierre again go over fire exits.
Alrighty, folks, once again, good evening and welcome. The fire exits are at the door where most of you walked, where you walked into the room. Way in the back there, where Cassidy is standing, the police officer back there. Only use that door for emergencies only. And then through the kids' store over here in the corner is another exit. You got to go all the way through and then out the backside. And then through this doorway over here out to the loading dock is an emergency exit as well. Also, 3/4 of the way up the hallway on the left-hand side is an automatic external defibrillator, an AED. In the event that we need it, it is there. Also, one other thing that I would like to add, if you are going to speak into a microphone at any time tonight, get your lips about an inch away from that microphone, because the fans are making it very difficult to hear you. And if you don't speak close, the more I turn it up, the more feedback we get, the squealing. So I'm trying not to do that. So if you speak closer and use your outside voice, that'll make things a lot easier.
Thank you, Rich. Madam Town Clerk, is there a quorum? With the time being 7:11 in the PM and a quorum is present, we will begin our annual town meeting for today, June 4th, 2024. Heather, may I please have the warrant? I could be nasty and say the right one. The return of the warrant shows it was properly served by a constable in the town of West Brookfield on April 3rd, 2024. Thank you, Heather. And may we please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a brief moment of silence, folks. Thank you, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I would like to reintroduce the town clerk, Heather Go, her assistant, Ann Goward-Hamp, our Board of Selectmen, the chair, Mr. Roland Sicklenberger, Mr. Eric von Blyken, I before E, except after Blyken, and Mr. Brad Merkel. Our town administrator, Mr. Ron Sanangelo, our assistant to the select board, and Mr. Sanangelo, Beth Gobey. I'm getting that one pretty good. Our advisory board chair is Laurie Laughlin. The vice chair is Cami Lamika, Mr. Ron Garceau, Mr. Michael Audette, and our newest member of the advisory, Mr. Don Moberg. And I forgot to tell everyone, if you turned your cell phones off, please turn them off now. No, not yet. Not yet, Laurie. Almost. I'm just going to go through with those silly rules I got. The annual town meeting will consist of roughly 19 articles. There are going to be some withdrawals, so it won't be a full 19. So our objective, again, tonight is to be fair in our deliberation, efficient and effective in our action. And we will have an opening remark by Eric von Blaken. Did I get it right that time, Eric?
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to bring it back over here because I want to operate the papers. On behalf of the Select Board and all elected residents who serve our town in any capacity, thank you for putting your trust in us. Also, on behalf of the Select Board and in our capacity as residents of West Brookfield, we want to take this opportunity to thank the many volunteers and employees of our town for their often selfless hard work as we all seek to continue to make this town one of the best places to live in all of New England. I am personally very appreciative of perspective. My position has enabled me to see what most of you rarely, if ever, see. Just how much these people, all these people, care and how hard they work for you. That said, since few of you do not have the benefit of my town hall perspective, we're going to take about 10 minutes of your time to share what continues to be done and especially what has improved and changed over the past year or so. Of course, positive change can never happen without guidance and expertise. Therefore, we have hired or supported for election numerous dedicated, wonderful people for important positions. The following positions have been filled within the last 2 years. Police Chief, Nathan Hagland. Town Clerk, Heather Goff. Assistant Town Clerk, Ann Harwood-Hamp. Executive Secretary, Beth Gobey. Treasurer Collector, Jillian Patch. Administrative Assistant at Trista Estrella. Senior Director, Kelly Hitt. Senior Center Director Kelly Hitt, Library Director Amy Agro, Assistant Treasurer Nicole Peralt, Town Administrator Ron Sanangelo, Water Operator John Stanton, Full-time Police Officer Kara Hartung, Part-time Police Officer Cassidy Culver. I'm sorry, full-time. Full-time, sorry, my bad. Thanks to these replacement and new hires, along with the current skilled people with vision who remain at your service, here is an incomplete list of accomplishments and changes that you may or may not, but definitely should know about. To date, thanks to the efforts of Chief Hagland and his team of officers, the police department received over $115,000 in grants, enabling them to obtain a new police cruiser, printers for all cruisers, protection for our roadways through traffic enforcement and data collection, de-escalation and critical incidents training, bulletproof vests and partial reimbursements for Bridge Academy training for part-time officers. Despite an extremely tight budget, Chief Hagland has been masterful at finding ways to fulfill most of the needs of his department. His biggest challenge continues to be keeping the town's required emergency service staffed 24/7 with the officers available. Chief Hagland spends many hours engaging with our town residents, from the senior center to the elementary and high school. He regularly engages both personally and professionally with calm dedication and a pleasant demeanor. Thank you, sir, for all you do. For your technical skills, your dogged attention to detail, your creativity, your leadership qualities, and your sincere dedication to the residents of West Brookfield. Moving on, our town clerk, Heather Goff, continues to be a huge asset to our town. Ms. Goff's attention to updating, streamlining, and working towards a long overdue restructuring of the clerk's office is and continues to be above and beyond. An integral part of that process was the hiring of Ann Garwood Hamp. Ann's help is crucial to the clerk's office. In fact, in addition to her work in the clerk's office, Ann consistently shows her own dedication to West Brookfield as a volunteer in numerous capacities. Ms. Goff and Ms. Garwood Hamp continue to make great strides in cleaning up, sorting through, and cataloging mountains of stored documents and files in order to allow better access to them, improving service to our town. Ms. Goff obtained state training for our election workers. She upgraded our non-functioning dog licensing program, and both she and Ann continuously seek to improve their skills by attending Mass Town Clerks Association conferences and other learning opportunities. Thank you both for your dedication, your attention to detail, and your pleasant, thoughtful demeanor. Your hard work improving communication with our town residents through social media, on our website, and via phone, email, and text is exemplary. We are lucky to have you. I would like to, by the way, personally express my gratitude to Heather for being incredibly instrumental in finally getting our Memorial Day parade back on track. Now, Rich LaPierre, our fire chief, has been around a bit longer. From my observation, he is quite simply one of the most dedicated, selfless human beings I know. I actually asked him to write up a list of some of his accomplishments, and one of the first things he made sure to point out was how much credit his department members deserve. That is good leadership. The amount of extra time Chief LaPierre spends weekly at his job, coupled with the time he consistently spends seeking funding through the writing of grants for our fire department, is Herculean. Here are just a few of the department's accomplishments. Numerous grants were written and received to help offset finances in order to purchase and update much needed equipment. These grant items add up to over $200,000. Low budget departments could not survive without these grants. In addition to the long list of items obtained through grants, donated items were acquired, included were items like the new rescue boat, a second rescue boat that can be used in the river, a drone, as well as battery-powered extrication tools known as Jaws of Life. These donated items alone added up to $89,000. Annually, the chief writes grants to try and replace fire trucks, some of which are over 30 years old and others close to it. These trucks are more than 10 or almost 20 years past their replacement dates. The department has revitalized the junior firefighter program for kids between the ages of 15 to 17 up to their 18th birthdays. For 2023, in association with Leicester High School, a student intern program was created by Police Chief Hagland. As a result of the program, the fire department maintained a student intern for the entire school year. Next school year, there will be 2 intern students working at the fire department, and 1 will be added to the police department as well. The chief is also the emergency management director for the town. Through his efforts, he has engaged 12 volunteers that make up the organization who train to mitigate hazardous situations and natural disasters from weather events, not including the 6 members of CERT we share with Warren. They are truly a fantastic new asset to this community. By the way, they are also always looking for volunteers. Thank you, Chief LaPierre. You are appreciated. Now, I cannot move on without emphasizing what has occurred as a result of hiring our new town administrator, Ron Sanangelo. It takes a unique set of skills to be an effective leader in this New England style of government. Mr. Sanangelo, from his very first day, has worked tirelessly and respectfully with the Select Board to solve problems and correct long-standing issues. These important changes have been implemented at a much greater pace with the hiring of a full-time town administrator. Our administrator has been instrumental in the hiring of most of our valuable replacements, most notably our treasurer-collector, Jillian Patch, and our new executive secretary, Beth Gobey. He has helped secure money through grants and other sources. Through his efforts, the town has received approximately $200,000 in green community grants from the state of Massachusetts to save the town energy costs. Every town building has seen improvements through weatherization and improved lighting. This is designed through energy savings to pay for itself initially and will continue to save the town money in the future. Mr. Sanangelo supported the creation of a new capital improvement committee and provided them with their first 5-year capital improvement plan. You already heard from the head of that committee, and you'll hear from him again. As town administrator, Mr. Sanangelo developed a Board of Selectmen / town administrator budget and posted it on the town's website in early January. This budget projection included all department budgets along with explanations of each line item for consideration by the advisory committee, a significant improvement in the town's budget process. After years of frustration, we finally have a new West Brookfield website. Mr. Sanangelo helped guide this process and acts daily to add design and informative content on the site. The new website now contains current information, allows a far greater transparency for our taxpayers, and is a worthy representation of the unique character of West Brookfield. In conjunction with the Water Department, our TA has joined a class action lawsuit regarding PFAS water contamination against certain manufacturers. The lawsuit has already been won and is expected to provide $1 to $1.5 million to the town over the next few years. There is a new town phone system at a lower cost. The savings earned go to defray much of the cost of our new town website. Departments are now fully staffed. We have a new treasurer collector, a new senior center director, library director, and numerous other administrative staff. Our town administrator continually seeks alternate funding sources to help save the town money while still maintaining and often even improving town services. The qualities I've observed in our TA, He has brought a wealth of experience to the job. He is not afraid to be decisive. He talks a lot, but also listens. He is able to get his ego out of the way when it is clear he has made a mistake. He disagrees with me on occasion, so he's not perfect. Kidding aside, Ron Sanangelo truly cares about setting up West Brookfield for success, not just in the short term, but for years to come. Thank you, Mr. Sanangelo. You are appreciated. Now, finally, and I'm sure you appreciate that, there is a long list of dedicated volunteers, far too many to mention, who unselfishly donate their time without any ulterior motive to help make West Brookfield a great place to exist. I will mention only a few, but there are so many more. Forgive me if I do not mention them all by name. People like Dave Brown, Paul Lepenis, Amy Dugas, Aaron Mahoney, Louise Garwood and Heather Walker, Lori Laughlin, Mike Siri, Tim Morrell, Melvin Dorman, Diane Veda, Rebecca Cornell, Michael Drolette, and Greg Morse. Thank you all for your contributions.
Thank you, Eric.
Folks, in this world where so much criticism grows and thrives without knowledge or understanding, it is extremely important that we all recognize and celebrate the good. I hope you will join me in giving all these volunteers and board members, our department heads, and our hardworking employees another hand of appreciation. Thank you. In that spirit, I give you your fire chief, Rich LaPierre, who will talk about one more special person who we all enthusiastically agree should be celebrated.
So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I was given the perfect segue by Selectman Eric Von Blake. Eric Von Blake, and see, he had me all messed up. He was coming up with all these goofy names earlier. So, in any event, there are plenty of accolades to go around, but there is one person tonight that I would love to acknowledge. And I'll start with I put a little something together, and I could go on for hours to talk about this person. He has given so much to this community, and it's time that we give him a little bit of recognition and a little bit something back. So tonight, we're going to talk about Robert E. Benson. So from here on out, we're going to refer to him as Benny, because I think most of you know him as Benny. And I actually live next door to him, and he's a pretty quiet neighbor. But in any event, as a young man, Benny attended Worcester Vocational Technical High School, where he took up the trade of electrical engineering. In 1951, Benny married his wife, Eva, where they enjoyed their lives together for 63 years until she passed in 2014. Also, in February 1951, he joined the United States Air Force, where he became a radar specialist. Benny spent time in Japan and a couple trips down to Kessler Air Force Base in Mississippi. He was honorably discharged as a sergeant in January 1955. Now, quite honestly, there's a lot about this gentleman that I couldn't put on here because we'd be here for a long time. But after he was discharged in 1955, Benny had many jobs in the area where he drove a truck for Varnum Yeast Factory, and he worked in the area post offices. And I actually think he was a postmaster in New Braintree. Is that correct? Yeah, see? His memory is a lot sharper than mine. In 1971, Benny became a water commissioner here for the town of West Brookfield. And he worked in the water department as a water commissioner, retiring May 24th of this year, 2024, with 52 years of dedicated service as a water commissioner. In association with the water department, Benny also became a member of the Stormwater Committee in 2001 as a representative for the water department, and retiring from the Stormwater Committee as well May 24, 2024, and retiring 23 years on the as a Stormwater Committee member. back in the 1990s, and I had never heard of this committee before, but it was, Benny also served on the Youth Littering Committee. And I didn't even know what that was. And I might do some digging on that in the future, but I was under the gun trying to get this done. In 1972, Benny had joined the West Brookfield Fire Department. He spent many years as a deputy chief. He was doing a lot of daily inspections throughout the community, as well as fighting fire when the community had fires. And he retired as a fire commissioner in 2022 with a total of 51 years on the fire department. That's right. Benny has dedicated most of his entire adult life to helping others, ladies and gentlemen, and he has brought great credit to this country. As being an Air Force member, he has brought great credit to this community, on the water department and the fire department and many other committees, and he's brought great credit to himself. Please, ladies and gentlemen, stand and help me honor Robert E. Benson. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to honor Benny with a Lifetime Achievement and Dedication Award to Robert E. Benson for your services for the United States Air Force, the West Brookfield Water Commissioner, West Brookfield Stormwater, West Brookfield Fire. For your lifetime achievements and dedication, you bring great credit to the United States, the town of West Brookfield, and to yourself. Presented today's date, June 4th, 2024.
Let me go turn that on for you. Hold on. Okay.
It's already on, Benny, whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay. Everybody hear me? I want to thank everybody for what they've done for me. I have had great help from many, many people in West Brookfield, and this is my town. I enjoy it. I was born here in this town, and I've been here all my life, 94 years. So with all that, thanks again.
Can we get a quick picture? You're welcome.
Thank you, Benny. All right, before I get to the advisory board, just a little bit more cleanup work. I want to redo the non-residents and those that will be speaking and be seated with the Board of Selectmen. So I would move that the meeting allow the following to sit with the Board of Selectmen: Mr. Ron Santangelo and Heather White. All in favor? I move that the meeting allow the following non-residents to speak at the meeting: Donna Allard, Ron Santangelo, John Madden, Amy Hargo, Heather White, Mr. Jim Daly, Police Chief Nathan Haglund, Kelly Hitt, Steve Duff, Dan McCall, and Kelly Pakriri. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. I think instead of going through the rules, which not many new people came in, we'll proceed right to the advisory board presentation.
He went to sleep. He went to sleep on us. It's going to take a second. It's coming.
You need to send me the photo of Benny. And I'll add it to the website.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the Vice Chair of the Advisory Board, and we just wanted to make a very brief presentation so that way you know what we're doing.
Little closer to the mic.
So we want to thank you for coming this evening. The Advisory Committee is independent and takes its commitments to the town of West Brookfield residents seriously. We commit to being impartial and representing all the constituents. Finally, it's our responsibility to be fiscally responsible, especially when the needs of the town are greater than our revenues. There's 3 points we would like to discuss with you this evening. The first is the budget process. The second is the fiscal 25 proposed budget before you tonight. And the third is the town's financial resources. First of all, the budget process. So part of the budget process is each department provided a spreadsheet reflecting their budget requests for this coming year's budget. The departments submitted their budgets to the town administrator, who provided all the department budgets to the advisory committee, showing the department request and the town administrator recommendation. That was something that section was new this year with the town administrator. The advisory committee meets with the departments and the town administrators and asks questions and discuss the budget requests. The advisory committee meetings are open to the public and are for discussion and debate. The advisory committee votes to make their recommendations to the town meeting this evening. So the 25 budget revenues are basically 3 sources of revenues that we have coming in. We have our real estate taxes that we all get our bills for. In this budget going forward, it's about $7.2 million is what gets generated in revenues from our real estate taxes. And that is restricted by the Proposition 2.5 plus new growth. The second part that we get for revenues are state aid. And this year we're projecting just over $1 million for state aid. That doesn't increase dramatically. And it's also subject to big state budget appropriations. The third source of revenues that we have are the local receipts. For next year, we're budgeting that they're going to be about $1.3 million. And those are motor vehicle excise tax, meals tax, and fees and permits. That's what local receipts consist of and get paid directly to our town. So I just wanted to clarify the real estate taxes with the 2.5% tax levy limit and the new growth so people understand what it is. So one of the restrictions under 2.5 is you have to take the previous year's tax levy limit, and that's what's taxed. So for fiscal 23, that was $6.8 million. The new growth for fiscal 23, and that's all the building permits, additions, things, that's what the tax created for those new growth items, were about $38,000 in tax revenue. The 2.5% increase that was calculated is $171,000. So the 24 tax levy limit, which is the current year's budget, is about $7 million. If you take a look at those two numbers, the new growth and the 2.5%, it's just over $200,000 of new tax revenue that comes in based on taxes within the 2.5 limit. That's how much additional funding we have from year to year. So I just wanted everybody to keep that in mind. When you take a look at the rate per thousand, that's what changes based on what the levy limit is and what the value of your properties are. So as the property value goes up, the rate per thousand goes down. For the fiscal 25 proposed budget on the expenditure side, we have operating budgets, and what I've done is I put a percentage of how much of our total budget is each group. So the education budget that we have, and that's for Quabog Regional School District, plus our vocational schools that we pay for, is just over 50% of our budget. Public safety is 11%. General government is just over 8%. Public works is just over 8%. Member benefits and insurance are just over 8%. Library and recreation are about 2.5%. Human services are just over 2%. Unclassified and share costs are just over 2%. And the debt service is just over 1%. And our water department, based on the enterprise fund, this presentation was put together tonight just before we approved the enterprise fund, so it's about 5%. When you take a look at year-over-year comparison, if you take a look at 24 versus 25 in the second column, our tax revenues, state aid, local receipts, you'll see that our revenues for fiscal '24 were just about $9.2 million. Our expenditures were $9.8 million. That meant we took $519,000 out of free cash to balance the budget. In fiscal '25, which is the budget that we're voting on this evening, we have about $9.6 million in revenues that we're projecting. Our expenditures are just over $9.9 million, which means, again, we're going to free cash, taking $305,000 from free cash to balance our budget. The point I want to make in here, our expenses are outpacing our revenue abilities. That's the part that we need to take a look at. When an advisory committee look through each department, many of them are being held at 2% increases. So it's becoming tough, and free cash is our balancing budget at the moment. So fiscal '25 budget summary, the revenues are about 9.6, our budget expenditures are 9.9, and the budgeted shortfall is about $300,000 that we're using free cash. And free cash is not a renewable revenue source. It doesn't keep growing, and it's similar to the balance remaining in your checking account is how I try to explain to people what free cash is. Because many people have asked, what is free cash? It's an accounting term. It's an accounting term for municipal finance. So think about it like your checking account. Your paycheck goes in, you write your bills out. The balance that's remaining is free cash. It's what's available to you to pay anything else. So it's the balance remaining from the previous year unspent, plus the current year's revenue we received over what was budgeted, and plus the current year unspent. So if we didn't spend all of our money that we budget tonight, that would also be added to free cash. That's how we come up with a free cash balance. And just to give you some frame of reference here, so free cash gets certified by the Department of Revenue every year. Our town accountant submits all kinds of documents to the Department of Revenue. They have to certify it before we can use it at town meeting. So last year, June of '23, we had $946,000 in free cash certified. Special town meeting tonight, we voted $269,000 of it. The annual town meeting shortfall that we're going to use tonight is $305,000. We have some articles for tonight that are going to be $195,000. That means we have $176,000 left in free cash for next year's budget. We used $300 tonight. Free cash number will change because when we close out the books at the end of this year, whatever's unspent or revenues that come in will get added to that 176. But the question is, we don't know if it will be enough to cover the shortfall for next year. And that's where we're looking at financially. In wrapping up, I'd like to also offer everybody to get involved. We need a broader perspective and different points of view. We're asking you to get involved. And most importantly, ask questions to learn the facts, please. Thank you. Bill, if you want to, I don't know if he wants to, somebody has a question.
Not right at this second, okay? Hang on 1 minute, MJ. Okay, MJ, if you want to take the microphone, you have questions for the advisory board.
I'll try to be a little more composed than last time. So the one question I do have about what was presented is the roughly $7 million in tax money revenues. Are those projected, or are they based on like last year's collected? Because I do know that there's properties, on the tax rolls that we're not collecting on, And there has been some discussion amongst other boards regarding how the town is going to handle properties that are not paying the taxes, whether there's going to ever be, a collection, an auction, whatever. So I want to know if that $7 million, the amount of bills you plan to send out, or the amount of money you expect to collect.
Good evening. My name is John Madden. I help out with the advisory committee in the town. And through you, Mr. Moderator, those are projected. They're really not very far off. As Kami explained, we know what the tax levy was set for the prior year. The 2.5% is the simple math. It's a 2.5% increase of the prior year. New growth is an estimate based on trends. 35,000. I know where you're going. Okay. Some of the tax revenue I think you're referring to is those items that are in tax title, taxes and litigation, or tax foreclosure. The town over the last few years has endeavored to clean up a lot of the tax title balances that are out there. And that's been a substantial increase in the free cash because, no, we don't budget those funds because we don't know if we collected. When we refer to property taxes, we refer to what we know, what the town has the ability to tax. Anything above that is basically found money. If we're able to collect tax title money, then that's something that wasn't budgeted in that $7 million. If, in a worst case scenario, perhaps if the town owned property of value and auctioned it off, that would be another type of found revenue. One of the things you have to understand is when towns set the tax rate, when towns send out the tax bill, they're going to get that money at some point, whether it's through your 4 tax payments a year, or move into tax title, and then tax foreclosure, and the money is either collected during that process or the property is auctioned off. There are properties in the inventory. They are being reviewed. Remember, the treasurer who oversees this just started a few months ago, so she needs to see those. There are no 4-bedroom colonials in tax title. A lot of them are basically undesignated lots, partial lots. I'm trying to think of the term of it now, but unbuildable lots that perhaps only an abutter would be interested in. And so the town could sell that for a small amount of money. Again, unexpected revenue, that would go toward free cash.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Anybody else have any quick questions before we get into the budget, et cetera? There being none. Articles 1 and 2 for the town meeting, folks, require no motion. Article 1 was, yes, we did have a town election. Results are posted in Town Hall. Article 2, the annual reports. If you do not have one, they are available on the town's website. Good reading. Article 3. I move that the town vote to determine the compensation to be paid to the elected town officers as described in fiscal year 24 annual town meeting warrant handout for the 12-month period beginning July 1. And I had that, folks. And that would be the moderator, $450. Selectmen, 2 each, $1,500. The advisory board recommends the $1,500. The select chairman, $1,500 was in 24. Advisory $1,500 for fiscal 25. The assessors, 2 members each at $29.13 and 12 cents. For fiscal 25, $29.13 and 12 cents. Assessors clerk, $4,161.60. For fiscal 25, $4,161.60. Board of Health, 2 each members, $915 for and 55 cents was for fiscal '24. For fiscal '25, $915.11. Board of Health, the chairman, $1,144.40, and again, that's level funded. Town clerk, fiscal '24 was $33,244.55. For fiscal '25, $33,908.93. And the water commissioners, each $455, and that is level funded. That is a simple majority. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The article passes. Article 4. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $9,328,221 as the operating budget of the town as listed in the handout documented FY25 Omnibus Budget Comparison, Water Enterprise Fund, and the Advisory Committee Fiscal Year 25 Budget Request for the purposes and the amounts specified, and to meet said appropriation, raise the sum of $9,044,067 and to transfer the sum of $284,154 from free cash. And further, vote on any state reimbursements which result in available funds to the Quabog Regional School District in excess of approved budget and shall be reused to reduce the town's assessment. So as I read the budget, folks, I'm going to read the whole thing through. If you want something to be held for further discussion, please just shout out hold, okay? And I'm taking some advice from Mr. Madden. I'm just going to read the black letters. The moderator, fiscal '24 was $300 approved at town meeting. For fiscal '25, the recommendation is $450. Salary for selectmen, fiscal '24 was $146,050. Fiscal '25 recommendation is $137,012. The selectmen's expense was $13,373 for fiscal '25, $12,930. The advisory committee salary in fiscal '24 was $2,000. Recommendation for fiscal '25 is $2,040. Their expenses are $424, and recommended for '25 is level funded at $400. The reserve fund expenses, $50,000. For fiscal '25, $50,000 level funded. The accountant's salary in fiscal '24 was $82,430. Fiscal '25 recommendation is $84,078. Expenses were $29,750. For fiscal '25, $30,343. The assessors' salaries were $45,720. Recommendation for fiscal '25 is $44,282. Expenses were $33,810. For fiscal '25, $35,224. The treasurer in fiscal '24, salaries were $73,076. For fiscal '25, $136,526. And I want to bring that up right now. The tax collector, those positions were merged, so there is no salary shown for the tax collector. Expenses in fiscal '24 for the treasurer's office, $14,110. Expenses for fiscal '25, $48,590. Hold those. Who said that? Legal counsel in fiscal '24 was $55,000. Fiscal '25, $57,600. Computer technology salary was zero, still again zero. Expenses were $47,600. In fiscal '25, the recommendation is $48,160. Town clerk fiscal '24 salary was $58,829. Proposed for fiscal '25 is $60,100. Expenses, $4,033. Expenses for fiscal '25, $3,833. Elections, salaries were $9,428, a decrease for fiscal '25 to $8,552. Expenses were $17,940. For fiscal '25, expenses $15,200. Conservation Commission, salaries for fiscal '24 were $2,412, and that'd be level funded in fiscal '25 at $2,412. Planning Board, salaries were $1,836. Salaries for fiscal '25, $1,836. And it's all red.
No. You missed the expense bill.
For conservation, sorry. Conservation expenses in fiscal '24 were $1,900. Expenses for fiscal '25, $1,565. Planning Board salaries, $1,836 for fiscal '24, '25, $1,836 at a level funding. Expenses are level for both years at $2,000. Zoning Board salaries for fiscal '24, $1,200, level funded for fiscal '25. Expenses were also level funded at $1,750. Earth removal had salary of $300, level fund for fiscal '25 at $300. Expenses remain at $100 each year. Town Hall salaries at $10,041. For fiscal '25, $10,242. Expenses, $49,310.24. For '25, $50,310. Town reports in fiscal '24 were $3,000, and that is expected to remain the same in '25 at $3,000. Police Department salaries were $638,866. For fiscal '25, projected $682,501. Expenses were $68,274. Expenses for fiscal '25, $69,139. Parking clerk salary, $115, and that would be level funded for fiscal '25. The fire department, fiscal '24, its salaries are $97,149. For fiscal '25, that'd be $99,254. Fire department expenses were $74,650. For '25, $76,085. Ambulance service expenses were $0. Expenses for fiscal '25, $60,000. Building inspector salaries for fiscal '24, $18,596. For fiscal '25, $18,967. Expenses were $3,031, and expenses fiscal '25, $2,831. Gas inspector salaries were $1,020, and that level funded for fiscal '25. Expenses also level funded at $300. Plumbing inspector, fiscal '24 was $2,295, a level fund for fiscal '25 at $2,295. Expenses were level funded at $150. The electrical inspector had a salaries of $5,170, and for fiscal '25 up 2% to $5,274. Expenses remain at $300 for both years. Zoning enforcement salary was $10,811. Salary for fiscal '25, $11,027. Expenses $400 for fiscal '24, $100 for fiscal '25. The animal inspector salary was $1,439, which is level funded for fiscal '25. Expenses also level funded at $100. Emergency management, fiscal '24 salaries were $4,300. a level fund for fiscal '25 at $4,300. Expenses were $5,465. For fiscal '25, $6,074. Animal control salary, level fund at $4,275. Expenses level at $500. Tree warden salary was $2,500 in FY '24. Fiscal '25 is level at $2,500. Expenses are level for both years of $41,500. Education, the expense for fiscal '24 was $4,561,623. And the breakdown, does everyone have the breakdown, I believe? And for fiscal '25, expenses $4,642,225, a 2% increase. Vocational ed, the salaries are $311,797.50. For fiscal '25, $313,533. Their transportation costs are going down from $48,037.50 to $32,500. Tuitions, $263,760. For fiscal '25, a little bump, $281,033. Highway Department had salaries in fiscal '24, $392,674. For fiscal '25, $408,132. Expenses were $159,190. Expenses for fiscal '25, $177,490. Winter roads, '24 was $21,132. For fiscal '25, $21,555. Expenses $83,640. For fiscal '25, $85,313. Municipal lighting expense was $43,000, and that's expected to be level for fiscal '25. Central Fuel Depot, $61,800 in fiscal '24. Fiscal '25 is $63,000. The landfill expense was $32,000 in '24. For fiscal '25, set at $32,000. Cemetery had salaries of $24,515. For fiscal '25, $24,681. Expenses were $5,500, which is level for fiscal '25 at $5,500. I'm sorry? On the cemetery? $5,550. $5,550. 5-0. Board of Health salaries were $44,754. For fiscal '25, $38,812. Expenses were $5,700. Expenses projected for fiscal '25 at $4,684. Council on Aging salaries were $83,466. For fiscal '25, $85,138. Expenses were $19,120. Expenses for fiscal '25 to $28,272. Veteran services for fiscal '24, $4,065. For fiscal '25, $4,065. Expenses for both years, $42,000. Library salaries, $138,807 in fiscal '24 to $137,137 for fiscal '25. Expenses, $70,860 for fiscal '24. Fiscal '25, $75,137. Recreation salaries, $12,750. Fiscal '25 salary down to $4,000. Expenses were $4,500, and that is level for fiscal '25 at $4,500. The Historical Commission salaries expenses were $752, and that's a level fund for fiscal '25 at $752. Celebrations in fiscal '24 was $2,500, and that's a level fund for fiscal '25. Lake Wickabog had expenses of $20,000 in fiscal '24. For fiscal '25, $20,400. The Common had expenses of $2,570 in '24, and for 25 be 2,620. Debts, the principal payments were 114,000 for fiscal '24, going down to $108,500. Interest on bonded debt, it was 5,876. That's going to bump up to 7,862. Borrowing expense there was none in '24. For '25, it's going to go to 7,862. Borrowing expense was 0 in '24, up to 1,500 for '25. Miscellaneous interest is $100 for both years. CMRPC expenses were 1,183 in fiscal '24. Fiscal '25 is to be 1,207. Group health insurance, 355,000 in fiscal '24. Fiscal '25 is 345,000. Worcester County retirement expenses were 393,795. In fiscal '25, expected 433,862. Medicare expense was $30,000 in fiscal '24. It's going to go to $35,000 in fiscal '25. Life insurance is $500 in fiscal '24, and that's level for fiscal '25. General insurance is $182,300, and the expense for fiscal '25 is expected to be $171,640. Water department salary is $179,840. Salary expenses for fiscal '25 is 0. Expenses for fiscal '24, $279,216. Expenses for fiscal '25, 0. Drop-off center salaries, $9,158. Salary for fiscal '25, $9,341. The expenses for the drop-off center, $4,524, and that will be level for fiscal '25. Agricultural committee had a salary of $200. For fiscal '25 is 0. Expenses were $400. Expenses for fiscal '25, $600. Stormwater had salaries of $1,600 in fiscal '24. Fiscal '25 salary is $1,632. Expenses were $424 and level funded for '25. Total salaries in fiscal '24 were $2,193,892. For fiscal '25, $2,056,490, down 6%. Expenses in fiscal '24, $7,331,792.50. For fiscal '25, $7,271,731, a 1% decrease. For the total omnibus budget for fiscal '24 was $9,525,684.50. For fiscal '25, it'll be $9,328,221, a decrease of 2%. Can't hold on that. The gentlelady who held salaries, that is just an illustration. I am being told you cannot hold that line. You would have to go through and hold each individual salary. Maybe someone else will bring it up for you. Okay? Water. Fiscal '24, the salaries were $179,840. Fiscal '25, $192,496. Expenses were $279,216 for fiscal '25, $335,285. Total salary for the water was $179,840. For fiscal '25, $192,496. And as stated, the expenses, $279,216 and $335,285. And with that, someone had a hold on the selectmen's salaries. Mr. Paquette.
Lester Paquette. Okay, we have on the warrant, it says the selectmen, each two-member, $1,500. We got a salary on our warrant for $137,000. There's a hell of a difference between $1,500 and $137,000.
Mr. Sanangelo?
Thank you. The selectmen's salaries were in the elected official account in the beginning on the article before this. This is the salary for the town administrator and for the executive assistant to the town administrator and board of selectmen. So this is not the selectmen's salaries. This is the salary for the town administrator that falls under that budget and for the executive assistant.
Well, this isn't right then.
No, the selectmen's budget was taken up in the actual selectmen funding was taken up because they're elected officials. So it was taken up in the elected officials segment. This is the people who work for the selectmen, so it's the selectmen's office budget, which is myself and the assistant.
Well, why isn't it listed that way?
It actually is because the elected officials have to be separate because they're elected officials.
It should be separate if the salaries.
It is separate, so theirs is separate.
You got it all lumped in one lump. It's crazy.
Again, the elected officials, the selectmen, the stipend they get is with the election, all the elected officials. When you saw the town clerk, all those, that's where their salaries are because they're elected officials. Their salary is not in this. This is the board of selectmen, which I work for, and the executive assistant works for. That's our salaries in that line.
I disagree.
Okay, I'm not sure what the answer
If you got salaries going, expenses, they should be listed independently. It shouldn't be lumped together. In other words, you're trying to put a shield over something.
All the department's salaries for any employees are all lumped into salary accounts. They're not individually spelled out in any town budget. They're all lumped in as a salary category.
That's a farce. You start lumping salaries together, there's no bottom.
Lester? I think what is confusing, let's pick on a department I know about, the assessors. If you look on the elected official sheet, there's two members that receive $2,900 a year, okay? And the clerk of the assessors board on that sheet is $4,000. But on the omnibus budget, it says salaries. Those $2,900 figures and the $4,000 figure is not part of this salary. This salary goes to the assistant, the administrative assistant to the board, the person that's there Monday through Thursday. It's the same with the Board of Selectmen. Two of them get a stipend, and the salaries go town administrator and assistant. I know it's confusing, but they're not doubled up.
Lester, all of the individual salaries are in the annual report. You can see what each and every one of the town employees makes. They're not listed out separately here for brevity's sake, I guess. We'd be here forever if we had to read everybody's salary.
Who wanted the hold on treasurer tax collector? Mr. Dorman.
Mel Dorman, 56 Wicklebonga Valley Road. I'm aware that the treasurer and tax collector positions are being commingled, but the expense has a substantial increase, and I'm wondering if someone could explain that, and is this a one-year increase or something we can expect going forward?
Mr. Santangelo?
Thank you, Melvin. That's a good question. I know you don't see it here, but this is a result of taking out all the postage of every town department and merging it into the treasurer's collector's office. It's a better way, we're going to get a postage meter, and it's a better way to control our expenditures for postage by having it in the treasurer collector's office. So this line, all the postage was taken out of the individual budgets and all was moved into this budget. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's an annual budget because it's the cost of postage of the sending out the tax bills, the town clerk, all the mailing that goes out, because it's now in her budget. That budget will just increase by the cost of postage, but there is no postage in the department line items anymore, in the individual departments. It was all taken out.
Someone had put a hold on account 231, the ambulance service. Mr. Lou Pacino. Good to see you, Paul.
Thank you. Paul Lupacino, 7 Wickabog, Old Wheel Bog, Valley Road. How come we be voting on $60,000 when we haven't voted on actually accepting that?
I'm sorry, accepting what?
$60,000. Isn't there an article tonight to accept?
Yeah. No, if I could explain through you, Mr. Moderator. So this request is a result of the ambulance company, the rescue squad, has come to the town and said that their costs are going up significantly. They can no longer afford to do the ambulance services to the town of Brookfield. Basically, they call it for free, but just on the basis of the healthcare money they collect from health insurance companies and all type of things. So they brought it to my attention. They explained to us that in order to continue to survive and to be able to continue to provide those services, that they would like to have a contract with the town for $60,000. It probably was the most debated issue of anything that we discussed among the Board of Selectmen, among the advisory board, and a variety of town officials. Basically, the statement made to us, if we don't provide funding for them, they're no longer going to be able to provide ambulance services to the town. The fire chief spent some time reviewing with other towns and ambulance services what it would cost to replace the West Brookfield Rescue Squad, the services that they provide, and he came up with a number of over $200,000 to replicate that service in town. I sent an email out to all the small town administrators throughout the state, got probably 12 replies. Almost all of them were significantly above the $60,000 that they are suggesting we pay them. There are 1 or 2 that are less, but it's because they provide buildings and bays and all kinds of equipment, lower gas prices, all kinds of things for the ambulance services. Here, our rescue squad provides 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service to the town, and they're local. So when you call them, they immediately go out. It's not a call service, it's none of that. A part of the revenue that they don't collect is uncollected people. There are just some people out there without insurance and stuff. So that's where we're at. Now, I want to be really clear that putting this $60,000 in budget doesn't mean that we're going to automatically contract with the rescue squad. We have to go through the normal state procurement process and ask for estimates and put out for quotes and all that stuff. So this doesn't gear them anything, but if they bid for the $60,000, we'll have the funds to be able to do it. We suspect that there'll be bids significantly higher than the $60,000, but if they put in a bid to the amount they say, we'll have enough funding to provide for that, and that's what we're expecting. Also invited the head of the ambulance company, the director is here to answer any other questions. But again, I want to stress that just because the money's going in a budget doesn't mean it necessarily is going to them. It still has to follow that state procurement process.
But again, you have an article to approve $60,000.
I'm sorry. The reason, so there was a lot of debate between advisory and the Board of Selectmen about doing this. While we were debating it, and it was a very struggle to decide how we were going to recommend it, you'll see both committees have recommended it. The rescue squad themselves petitioned for an article, Article number 20 tonight. If this is voted on in this article, that petitioning article will go away. So that article, if it's passed in the budget tonight, we expect that that article will be withdrawn and there'll be no further discussion on it.
Have you looked into the 501c3 company itself and its operation?
So the answer is yes. And the answer is, there are a series of articles that you'll find on the internet about this. I'm made very aware of the past controversies over this. The truth is that in spite of those controversies, and there's nothing in there that's criminal aspects in that respect, but in order to provide these services to the citizens, it could cost us well over 200 grand. We believe that this is the best move forward, because the town doesn't have 200 grand to get this service, that we believe with the board of directors and the pressure that the town will be putting on, that we are comfortable moving forward if indeed they do get this contract with the town. A contract will have to be negotiated between myself and the rescue squad, and will have to be voted on by the board of selectmen before it's adopted and approved. But yes, I am aware of it. We have looked at that, and we still have made a decision to recommend it at this time.
Is the ambulance service still running under the original charter developed in 1952?
With that, I'm
For the town.
With that, I'm going to ask the rescue squad to answer that question, because I'm not the person to ask for that. So we have added as a non-resident to speak the director of the ambulance corps, and I would ask Dan McCall to come up and answer that question, if that's okay with you through the moderator.
That's fine.
Mr. McCall, would you like to?
Hello, thank you, Mr. Moderator. To answer your question, Mr. Lupacino, yes, the organization is still running under its charter that was passed in 2006, I believe under your tenure, that provides a...
Mr. McCall, could you maybe speak up a little bit?
I apologize. To answer your question, Mr. Lupacino, yes, the organization still operates under its charter passed in 2006 under your tenure, I believe. That is a nonprofit that charges a fee. It is a 501c3 company.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. Paul?
So the charter reads, at no time will the town of West Brookfield be charged for their service. They are allowed to bill for insurance company and insurance reimbursements. They are allowed to do a subscription drive to allow residents to provide them with a secondary insurance to pay their balance bill. The rescue squad is entitled to balance bill any resident that does not have a subscription. That's the resident's choice. Okay, I ran the rescue squad for a lot of years and developed it into a free service for the town of West Brookfield. My grandfather was an original charter member, and I prided myself in making sure it stayed that way. Okay? You and I support the West Brookfield Rescue Squad, the company. May not be the people that are running it, but the company. And I can tell you right now that a lot of people, and I'm sure in this room, is unaware that this is a long-term service that has been provided to the town free of charge for many, many years. Benny and myself both served the company, okay? If they're running it into a deficit, it's because their expenses they've created this problem, okay? And I can tell you firsthand that there is revenue that they can be running in the black for providing the service to the town of West Brookfield. Do we have a choice of what hours are they deciding to run? Do we have a choice on what level service that we provide? Have you looked into regional ALS services? Okay.
So Would you like me to answer some of those questions? Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to go through a couple of the things that you have. And again, I'm not going to claim to be an expert in what their charter says in their agreement, right? So whatever their charter is, that's really not an issue for us. That's between their members and their charter and in that situation.
It's the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, so the question of the service, right now they're providing 24-hour day, 7-day service to the town. And I'll only say this, and I'm going to say this from my own experience in dealing with the ambulance companies over the years. The world has changed a lot in that typical service. And you remember the old days, it used to be volunteers, and it was a lot lower cost than what it is today. The cost has risen dramatically because employees these days, they actually want to be
Just the
paid.
fuel.
Yeah.
To go to Mary Lane versus Palmer, I understand that.
But they want to get paid, they want to have the benefits, they want to have all the same thing all in place. It's not the old ambulance company that you were involved in back in your day. So I appreciate that, and I agree with a lot of what you say. Also, a lot of the expenses in terms of the Medicare, Medicaid expenses have gone down dramatically, so it's much harder for them to make income on those calls. And we do have a significant 55 and older type population. So there's a lot of changes from the old days. I'm not sure if the citizens would want to go back to a less than 24-hour a day, 7-day a week thing or not. But yeah, you could save money if you want to do that. Not sure if that's what you'd want to do. So there's a lot of issues here. In terms of looking at other towns, so there's some towns that have municipal ambulance companies that are built into the town fire departments, for instance.
Yes.
We looked at those. I talked to some that are multi-town districts, as you say, and the costs were significantly higher. They pay basically what this 60 grand is. It's a per capita basis is how they came up with this number on per citizen cost. I don't remember that dollar amount per citizen, but Dan can talk about that. To your comment, I struggled a lot with this for a lot of the same reasons you are, but the big benefit to this town is that they are literally located in West Brookfield, so the response time is much quicker. If you were to bring in another nonprofit or a private company, the expenses would be significantly higher because they would have to find locations and all that stuff. So the question, I guess, is today, and again, there's nothing guaranteed that they're going to get this contract, although if they bid the lowest, they will. But there's a lot to consider here, and after a lot of debate and discussion, we felt that this was the best benefit to the citizens of the town.
Well, just so that the people here are aware, the only liability the town has, okay, is to provide housing for one ambulance. Okay, this was passed at town meeting 1971-72 when they put the addition onto the fire station. In 1953, the town voted to put up an ambulance garage, $1,500. The town voted to take it down and put up an addition on the fire station, providing one stall for the ambulance for as long as they so needed it or wanted it. Mr. McCall moved that ambulance out of the fire station. I'm not sure if he still wants it, needs it, or what have you, but that is what we owe them. Okay?
Just to be clear, though, we have no facility for them at this time. Our fire department is loaded already. We can't even meet the needs of the fire department, so we don't have a facility that we could put them in.
But their housing cost is according to their last 990 that was on file, $16,000. That's for 3 ambulances in office. Okay, so it's a big difference. Okay, that's what we're obligated to them for.
I'll make my last comment because I don't want to, this is not my, that's not the.
Just make the people aware that.
But the reality at the end of the day here for me was we need to have an ambulance service in town. Having 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service made a lot of sense. And looking at other department would increase the response time and cost us more money than the $60,000. So our hands are somewhat tied by our options because the options out there weren't any better than the current situation.
2 more questions. Are we still working under the same service zone plan that was adopted by the town back 2016, 15? Are you aware of what a service zone plan is?
I am not.
Okay, that is a requirement of the town to sign with an ambulance service to provide emergency transport.
I'm aware of that, yeah.
I developed that plan and gave it to the town years ago, okay? Is Mr. McCall aware that he's running under a service-owned plan? Who's managing their operation or overseeing their operation?
So I'm aware of the state law that sets up regional ambulances for different parts of the state.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
You're talking about a
It has-
contractual thing or under state?
This is a requirement of the town to identify their emergency services and how it's provided.
Right, that's just effectively the same thing I was talking about. It's state law that requires the town to have an ambulance service to take care of the citizens of the town. I wasn't familiar with your term, but that's state law, right?
Right.
So that exists. In terms of the ambulance history, that's something you better to ask Dan about. I wasn't here for the history. If you have history questions about how the ambulance was set up or something, that's better addressed to him. Again, I want to stress that this 60 grand may not go to that rescue squad unless they are the lowest bidder. I gotta
Unless
keep
they
stressing
have
that.
what?
Unless they are the lowest bidder when we put this out for quotes or
Of course, it's going to
bids.
be a lowest bidder if it's 60,000.
There you go.
The fact is the amount of now, if we're going to be donating or giving money for the operation of that rescue squad, who's going to oversee to make sure that that service is being run properly?
So it's a private company, it's a as you said, a
exactly.
401c3, and the town, just like it does with any other vendor, will have a contract, an obligation. We will look at other contracts that are with other ambulance corps. We will develop a contract using town council, and the town will make sure that the ambulance company lives up to that contract.
Well, you are aware that they lost their license multiple times, right?
Paul, we're kind of drifting
So
from
I'm
the
just a little
subject.
concerned that these people here tonight realize what they may be voting for.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Lupacino.
Dan Esser, 20 Pleasant Street. Now, I got a question. If we're going to spend the $60,000 on the ambulance service, are they going to guarantee an ambulance in town all the time? Or are they going to be in Hardwick,
So the
where
answer,
they have another contract?
their answer is there will be a contract that sets a standard level of service will be required to meet. We have not negotiated a contract at this point, but that will be part of the contract negotiations.
Because I know currently Warren, Brookfield, East Brookfield, North Brookfield, all come to this town multiple times during the week and on the weekends because they're not covering the town, because they're on other calls. Okay, so if we're paying this money, are they going to be here for the town, for the residents? Because that's what you're saying, is if we don't pay them, we're not going to have an ambulance service, but every other town covers this town.
So the normal process in emergency services is that the first, usually the responses are to the town, but they can respond to other towns, just like our fire department sometimes has to leave and cover. So there's mutual agreements among town ambulances and fire departments to cover each other and if they're out in other calls. So
West Brookfield doesn't have any mutual agreements with the other ambulance services in the surrounding towns. West Brookfield Rescue Squad does.
Rescue Squad,
not the town.
Right. But the concept of be it the fire department or the rescue squad, is that other services will provide backup calls. Now, you'd have to ask Dan how it works, but I imagine that the fee from an insurance company, is there is one, would end up paying that ambulance company, but that's a better question of Dan to me.
Okay. The other question I have is, could their problem with their budget be the fact that they're now paying all their personnel a salary as opposed to being on call like all the other towns are?
Well,
and they don't provide services any quicker than some other towns because we beat them to some of their calls.
Okay, so again, a better question of him than me. Common sense applies that if people don't have to leave their houses and come to the ambulance company and pick up an ambulance, their response time will be faster. I'm not going to debate response times in different towns. I'm sure they're all different, but that, again, is a better question of the director of the ambulance service than it is of me.
Pam?
Say that again.
I'm sorry?
Did you say Pam?
Pam.
Pam Scavero, West Main Street. It's really nothing to do with this. I just want to know that the citizens petition, did the citizen who petitioned agree to drop that in lieu of putting it in the budget, or is this still?
Pam, the only thing I can say on that is I am unaware of what that petition is and who might be presenting it. They did not approach the moderator at all about it. So at this point, I'm probably going to say that particular article is out of order.
Well, how did it get on there if it wasn't submitted correctly?
Correct. That's why I'm going to call it out. No.
It has to, somebody had to submit that for it to be on the warrant.
Yep.
And do they agree to drop it? That's what
I'll have a better, when we deal with that, I'll have a better.
Well, because if that's going to go, then maybe we would move to drop the 60,000 from the town budget and address this article.
Again, I have no idea what that petition is about.
Does anybody?
So,
well, Pam, you've been around long enough. If no one approached the moderator.
But maybe they know, maybe they made a deal with somebody. I don't know.
They should have, I have a phone.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
So no, I'm not, I don't, at this particular point, I don't believe I'm going to entertain that article.
Okay.
It's not an appropriate article.
Well, it has to be. It's on the warrant.
Correct.
Somebody just didn't write this in there at the last minute.
Right. Where is sponsored by? Where
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. We'll get there, Pam. We'll get there.
But maybe we would delete the 60,000 from the budget if this article's going to be addressed.
Bill?
Well, a motion can be made at any time.
But I may not be opposed to the 60,000.
Pam, as far as that article itself, I doubt I'm going to even get into it.
Let's answer.
I won't know until that, I don't even know who's doing it. So let's get back to the budget.
So if I could, just briefly, the answer to your question is that neither board would recommend supporting Article 20, particularly if it passes in the budget. Putting it in the budget article was to eliminate the need for 60, for Article 20, as you described it. You're correct. It had to be petitioned. It has to be on there. We believe that the way that article is established, there's all kinds of problems with it, but it doesn't matter because either way, the town has to address the need to have an ambulance service. So the Article 20 would be recommended it be held and not taken up, and the question could be put to the head of the ambulance company if him and the group of people that proposed Article 20 would be willing to withdraw it if this passes in the town budget.
Well, that would be, I guess, is my question.
So with that,
well, Pam, again, as it stands right now, I'm probably not going to recognize it anyway. No, we have a hold on the water. Someone put a hold on water.
I still have questions.
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm kind of right behind Pam here. Okay, if it hasn't been voted on, how can it be in the budget?
Again, Paul, I'm going to deal with that when I get to it.
Also, the fact that, that there's got to be some form of accountability. Whether I can tell you right now, your charter tells them that they will provide that service. What type of service they apply, what level, how quick they get there or whatever, that's another whole thing. You address that when there's a problem. The rescue squad provided a on-call service for a long time, okay? And yes, Mary Lane Hospital was there. Now they gotta go to Palmer. I support their efforts. I know what they're up against, and they do it, and they're doing the best they can. But if you run a company in a deficit, you need to look at how much you're paying your people. I mean, I looked at this budget. It's the first time I've looked at this since I retired from the president. I made $6,800 as president. He's making $62,000 as president. Okay, and I did the same amount of work as he is. Okay, so I want to question that. As a town resident, you're saying we're going to pay it. Nobody voted here to pay it yet. Okay, Why is it in this article?
Well, it's in the article for you to vote on tonight, so the town can vote to approve it as part of the budget or reject it. That's the decision that we're
There you
asking
go.
for.
So you can adjust,
Accountability is going to be through the contract.
you can adjust it.
But
You
the
can adjust that
the accountability is through the contract, is how the town's going to hold that department accountable for the services it provides the town.
And nothing against Mr. Lapierre, but, you know, and I'm sure he did a great job, but has he run an ambulance service before?
Paul,
Okay,
we
so-
get back on, stay on subject, okay?
Well, he's basing his $60,000 off on an assessment, okay?
Someone had a hold on the water department.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil Guerin, 101 Wickabog Valley Road, and I'm a water commissioner here in town. A little while ago, the water commissioners were made aware that our water superintendent may have been skipped over on a pay step increase a year or so ago. The advisory committee was made aware of this, and I know that the town administrator was also, but with everything going on and more pressing issues, it never really got looked into. I don't have a figure to offer for a budget amendment at this time, but if you think it appropriate, I would like to offer an amendment that would direct the water commissioners, board of selectmen, town administrator, town accountant, and town treasurer to cooperatively investigate a possible skip pay step for the water superintendent, and if confirmed, determine what is owed the employee, including any retroactive pay, and to recommend compensation. We're a small town. We have a handful of employees that do a lot of great work, so we need
So
to...
wouldn't it be more appropriate to have a regular selectmen's meeting on that point?
We, as I understand it, we've tried to move it through that process, and it's gone nowhere, so that's why we're bringing it here.
So what would be your objective? Would you be making a motion to adjust any of these figures?
No, I don't have a number to adjust them by at this point in time, and obviously the advisory board and selectmen don't have anything in front of them, although they're aware of the issue. So I'm just offering an amendment to kind of force a solution to this by having all the right parties get together, investigate
right, and I'm
this.
suggesting that the more appropriate route would be either to step back with the Board of Selectmen themselves by the water commissioners, or maybe do up some type of an article for our next special town meeting, if we might have one in the fall, or one can be called.
I
Do you
defer to
feel
your
that that would
judgment.
be a more appropriate path?
I was just offering that as a way to try to move this forward.
Right, but within the budget, we would have to make adjustments to these figures.
Understood.
And other than that, no, it would not be appropriate to add that in
Okay, understood.
on this one.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we had one more comment on the ambulance, $60,000.
Can we make a motion or an amendment to remove the $60,000 from the budget until we can go through the contracts and you can discuss it with the townspeople before we pass that in the budget of $60,000? Can we make that amendment or motion?
You can make a motion to do pretty much whatever you want, as long as it passes town vote.
Okay, can I make that motion?
We have three motions on this article. Is Mr. San Angelo, is that correct?
Yeah, he can make a motion to do it, to take the $60,000 out of budget. I just want to state it really clearly, because this is important, is that we've looked very, very seriously at providing the service at a lower price. The ambulance service has a right to stop providing that services to the people of this town. And for us to replace that service may be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So recognize that that could be a serious issue.
If we don't have the $60,000, we're not going to have the money to sign the contract this year.
Again, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen just advised me as well, if we don't have money in the budget, we're not going to have any funding to pay any ambulance services, so it would require, I guess it would require a special meeting and a new appropriation of funds from somewhere to pay whatever ambulance services that we ended up contracting out for. Speak heavily against this motion because if it passes.
So we're on Article 3. We're on Article 3.
Yeah, we're just, yeah, I'm gonna bust out. Everything, usually the rest of it moves through.
Do you think Dan deserves a chance to?
It seems like he wants to speak.
Shoot.
Okay, folks. David has submitted a motion to amend. Hang on, I'll try to get my wording correctly the first time round. The motion is, I move the town to remove the $60,000 from the town budget until addressed by the townspeople with a vote.
Moderator, with all due respect, that's pretty vague.
That's why I'm reading it again, Mike. Thank you. David, do you want to help him with the motion?
I'm trying to write the motion.
Motion just to reduce the budget ambulance for line item by 60 grand. I think it's a huge mistake, but it's up to people if they want to do it. If the ambulance doesn't come very close, they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah, it's going to take time. That's what they're talking about, taking time.
Don't get sick.
Yeah, don't get sick.
Stuck in 1972.
Yeah, I know. You should say that. Because if they vote this and the ambulance service stops, what are you going to do if the ambulance service stops?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting old, it's past bedtime. The citizen has moved to amend the budget. I move the town vote to remove the $60,000 from the town budget, which would be the line item for ambulance services. And that would the motion would remove that $60,000. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the motion?
Paul Lepenis, 38 Red Point Road. My comment here is that I think we're calling the bluff of the rescue service. If we strike the $60,000 from this budget, and we're calling their bluff that they're going to leave if they don't get the $60,000, are we ready to live with that consequence of their leaving? I think that the select board and the advisory committee have done their job to advise us appropriately.
Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Ladies and gentlemen, before you vote on taking this off. Oh, I didn't think, oh, am I talking loud enough? I've been a pharmacist for 50 years. And I'm wanting you to be penny wise and dollar foolish. Because if you have a stroke and you need these people, every second counts. And we all aren't getting any younger. That's all I have to say. A word to the wise should be sufficient.
Mr. Martin?
Brad Merkel, 48 Central Street, as a resident, not as a selectman. Mr. Lupacino, I appreciate you coming and expressing the concern and bringing some knowledge to us that I wasn't personally aware of. What I would like to add on the time frame here is West Brookfield and the community is an aging population. We haven't seen much growth coming in that has been of the younger generation. As the ages continue and illnesses continue to grow and call volume by the chief and everything else is just through the roof, especially as a first responder out in Sturbridge, the numbers are just growing. We can't, I'd love to decrease them, but they're just growing. And if the town does, or the charter is supposed to provide what it is providing, stops or continues what they're functioning, again, my worry is time frame. So if they're providing one ambulance and now they have two that aren't available, what happens when someone's in Palmer or someone's in another town or Woodworth, and then a life that could have been saved is now not? I personally don't want to live with that on my conscience.
Thank you, Mr.
It's always a consideration. I did it for 40 years and I know, okay? We think about that. My concern, and no one heard what I said, I support the West Brookfield Rescue Squad, Inc., okay? I don't support how it's being managed to where it's now going to cost the town of West Brookfield, because I know it can be run for free.
Paul?
Okay? And the town of West Brookfield and residents have supported it to where it is now.
Right now, we're going to discuss the motion to remove that. That's where our discussion is at this point. Is there any other discussion? Comments for or against the motion?
Hi, Barbara Portel, 29 Highland Trail. I just want to echo the gentleman's comment earlier, and I'm very confident that our select board and under Ron's leadership has conducted considerable due diligence and benchmarked these services against other towns. What is the current service delivery model? What's the current cost? What is the state of our healthcare system? Is it getting any better? So I really think it would be extremely penny wise and pound foolish not to get this into the budget tonight. I think that it's, so in terms of like the actual motion to remove it, I just want to say I think it's not a good idea.
Thank you, Barbara.
Joanne Bastian, West Main Street. I think it's also very foolish to remove this from the budget. We have advanced life support on every single run. They have served the town well, they're full-time. They are in-house, they respond quickly. The town will be very sad shape if we lose them.
Okay, you got $60,000 for the town. You got an $800,000 police budget. How come we have such good service with our rescue or ambulance? And not that we don't have good service, but the differential in the money. So I believe the $60,000 is well spent.
Thank you, Lester. Is there any other comment? Mr. Gallagher.
George Garwood, 29 Rodman Road. I'm confused about one thing, and forgive me for trying to get this point clarified, but I thought I heard it mentioned that the budget item, the $60,000 budget item, is just to provide that money in the budget, which will then be, that budget item will be submitted to the regular sort of procurement process, and whether or not that $60,000 is spent, or whether it becomes $50,000 or maybe more. But anyway, that there will be a procurement process to spend that money in the appropriate way with the appropriate provider. Is that correct? Is that what I understand?
That is 100% correct and required by state law.
Yes. So just because that money is in the budget doesn't mean that it's definitely going to the West Brookfield Rescue Squad.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Any other comment? Not seeing any. Look, I'm sorry. No need to now. With that in mind, all those this is a simple majority vote because it's on a motion. All those in favor to remove the $60,000 from the budget, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The nays have it. The motion fails. Now, where was I? Did we do the water one? Yes, we did. All the holds have been answered, and with that in mind, we will move to vote on motion 1 of Article 4, and it's a simple majority vote. So if you vote yes in the affirmative, then that motion passes, and obviously no, it does not. So all in favor of Article 4, motion 1, say aye. Oh, go ahead, Bill, you had a question, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Yes, I have not heard, my name is Bill Jenkins. I have not heard any comments tonight about how much money we have in our stabilization fund now and how much we had in it at this time last year.
You don't have to answer that now. If you have it ready, that would be great. Heather. Bill, would it be okay if we went through the vote until they find the figures for you? No, I will get it to you. Yep, as soon as they tell me they got it, we'll get into it. I understand you. Right, but Bill, my only point being is that won't change this. So if we can get that vote, to get the figures? Okay. So all those in favor of the motion 1 on Article 4, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion has passed. As soon as you guys get that, just follow up. We'll give it to them. So we're still on Article 4. We're on Article 4 and Motion 2. I move that the town appropriate the sum of $527,781 from water enterprise revenue as the water enterprise fund budget of the town as listed in the handout document fiscal year 25 omnibus budget comparison. Is there any advisory board?
Advisory board recommends approval.
Select board?
The Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There being none, that motion 2 passes. Okay. Bill, Mr. Jenkins? Our stabilization fund at the end of fiscal 24 will be $1,225,896. In fiscal 23, it was $1,262,672. Do you want to write that down? I'll keep it for you. I'll keep it for you. Remind me that I got it. Article 4, motion number 3. I move to indefinitely postpone action under Article 4 on the PEG Access Enterprise Fund. Advisory.
Advisory board recommends that
Select board.
indefinitely suspend. Postpone.
Select board.
The Board of Selectmen recommend postponement.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, it's on our article number 4, that's just a segment of article number 4, the budget article.
Good evening again. Through you, Mr. Moderator. The article itself, if you read the article, it contains three types of operating budgets. There's your general operating budget, the Water Enterprise Fund, which you voted earlier this evening and passed just now. And the third component was the PEG Access Fund. That's public education and governmental channel access. It's a stabilization fund, but is in the process of being changed by the state legislature. They have passed the changes, they just haven't been signed into law at this point, but they will. And so where it's in flux, the advisory committee and the Board of Selectmen have suggested that with regard to the PEG Access Fund, that you indefinitely postpone that until a future date when they know more specifically what the legislation will be.
Does that answer your question, Pam? Okay, I'll just read it real quick again. I move to indefinitely postpone action under Article 4 on the PEG Access Enterprise Fund. Advisory Board recommended and Board of Selectmen recommended. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion number 3 to Article 4 has passed. Article number 5. I move that the town vote to authorize the water commissioners to make improvements to the municipal water system by the design and installation of iron and manganese water filtrations equipment at Leland Road Well Field, and further authorize said Board of Water Commissioners to apply for any federal or state grants or funds which would be allocated towards reducing the cost of the project. This was sponsored by the Water Department. Advisory Board.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of Article 5 say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Article 5 passes. Article 6, spending limit on revolving funds. I move that the town vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to establish annual expenditure limits for the following revolving funds as established in the town's general bylaws as listed in the warrant. This is sponsored by both the Burial Grounds Commission, Stormwater Authority, and the Tree Warden. Line 1, the cemetery, fiscal 25-year spending limit, $16,000. Line 2, stormwater, the fiscal 25 spending limit will be $25,000. And line 3, the tree warden's spending limit will be $10,000. Advisory Board.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There being none, Article 6 passes. Article 7, sponsored by the Highway Department. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed in the town road maintenance account, and to meet said appropriation, transfer from free cash the sum of $75,000. Capital Improvement Committee. Did I miss something, Dave? Hang on.
Dave Brown,
No,
Capital Planning Committee. We discussed this to run and maintain the roads in this town. The town gets Chapter 90 funds every year to the tune of $200-something thousand for Jim Daly and the Highway Department. Over and above that, in order to do this job correctly, we recommended an additional $75,000 supplemental as part of our capital budget to give him what he needs to get the job done.
Thank you. Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There being none, Article 7 passes. Article 8, sponsored by Capital Improvement. I move that the town vote to transfer $110,187 from free cash and $11,200 from the water enterprise revenue for the purpose of funding various capital improvement projects or for purchasing capital improvement items as recommended by the Capital Improvement Committee. Such purposes and funding amounts being as follows. For the fire department, turnout gear, 10 sets, $44,000 from free cash. Library repairs, $25,000 from free cash. Town clerk, cabinets, $11,187 from free cash. Library boiler replacement, $30,000 out of free cash. Total free cash, $110,187. For the water department, you need a new well pump, $11,200 out of the water revenue fund. Total water surplus account, $11,200. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? There being none, Article 8 passes. Article 9, sponsored by the Capital Improvement. Article 9, I move that the town appropriate $170,000 to pay costs of purchasing and equipping a new heavy highway truck and for payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with approval of the selectmen, is authorized said amount under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore. This is going to require a 2/3 vote. 2/3 vote is by secret ballot according to our bylaws. I would entertain a motion to suspend the secret ballot. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, the 2/3 is suspended. Capital Improvement Committee recommendation.
Again, Capital Planning Committee, we should get the nomenclature correct on that, but has discussed this with department heads, including Highway, and in this case believes, having been toured the Highway barn and looked at the facilities and the equipment there, that this is a necessary purchase.
Advisory Board.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion?
Hi, Scott Morris, 15 Forest Drive. We're on Article 9.
Yes.
And when I read it and what's given to me, it's to appropriate and transfer funds to purchase large items and vehicles. You have a much different description of what's being asked for than what we have. And there's nothing on the projector to show us anything different, so we're only going by what you say. It's difficult to follow along and understand what we're being
Scott,
asked
what
to
does
vote
yours
on.
say? What does yours say?
See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow a sum of money to purchase large capital items, including equipment and vehicles, or take any other action relative thereto. Sounds pretty wide open to me.
Yeah, that was the rough draft. Wasn't it?
That's what I'm looking at.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So at the time of putting out the warrant, we knew we were going to be purchasing large capital item, but we didn't know specifically what it was. So the general article that you see that was posted gives you the general that we're purchasing a large capital item. All this defines exactly what it is we're purchasing. So the Capital Improvement Committee was still working on this capital improvement budget at the time that the article was put on the town warrant. And that's general, frankly, it happens a lot. This now just specifies that it's a truck we're doing. And what we're doing is some borrowing from the past is falling off, and this is keeping our debt service level. So that this will result in no tax increase because old debt falls off, new debt is replaced. But that's how this works.
Yep. Nope, totally understand. Could I make the suggestion maybe for future meetings that we put something up on the screen that is what's changed?
Well, again,
or what's being presented?
Right. So again, like in the past article we just did, capital improvement, it was outlined the specific things that they were buying. In the past article we just did. Now the one we just did, where we
Article
talked
7.
about.
I don't want to go too far up, but Article 7 has no
Article-
details either.
Article 8 has all the capital improvement details. The only reason.
No, it does not.
No, I'm sorry. We just read them off to you. You're right. We read them off to you.
All right.
Good suggestion.
Yeah. No, you're right. We read them off to you.
Just to clarify, if the moderator wants to read the motion again, all of the details are in the motion. So this is being fully disclosed and fully transparent. There are no ambiguities. There are no changes behind the scenes.
Does everyone understand what the motion is? We'll do it again then, Mr. Dave. Article 9, I move that the town appropriate $170,000 to pay costs for purchasing and equipping a new highway truck and for the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. And that to meet the appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Sub 1, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town thereof. So it's for a highway truck. And again, it's the 2/3 which was suspended. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? There being none, Article 9 passes.
But he's got a point. We should put something on the screen for people to see.
Article 10, sponsored by the Highway Department. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to file a petition with the General Court and to amend Section 2 of Chapter 132 of the Acts of 2022 to authorize the Commissioner of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, in consultation with the Department of Fish and Game, to convey to the town of West Brookfield certain temporary and permanent easements on the property located at 652 West Main Street, West Brookfield, Mass., in addition to the land identified in said act, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to authorize the dedication of portions of certain town-owned parcels shown on the plan entitled Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division Plan and Profile West Main Street, Route 9, in the town of West Brookfield, Worcester County, preliminary right-of-way prepared by CHA and last revised on July 20, 2023, for public way purposes in connection with Phase 2 of the reconstruction of West Main Street and in exchange thereof to dedicate a parcel of land for conservation purposes. Advisory Board?
The advisory board recommends.
Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, Article 10 passes. Article 11, sponsored by the Treasurer Collector. I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 54B, to allow town trust funds to be managed and invested in accordance with the General Laws, Chapter 203C, the so-called prudent investment rule. Advisory Board?
Advisory board recommends.
Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
William Laub, 33 Birch Hill Road. So you're talking about investing funds from the town, and you don't say it in the proposal, but are you going to be looking to invest your funds in companies that practice DEI? And
Go ahead.
so a lot of, there's a saying, go woke and go broke. And certain companies in the country have found this out. And so if you're talking about investing monies that the town has, using any of these newfangled things that BlackRock is pushing, well, I think that's dangerous for the town's investments because you could find that they drop instead of grow.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Santangelo.
So I apologize in raising my hand a little early because I didn't understand quite where you were going. So the answer to your question is that the general rule is to make sure that the town doesn't invest in risky type investments. I don't know that it goes into the question you had about woke investments, that kind of stuff. But what we do, the reason the treasurer collector wanted this on is to protect the town that no investment could be made in very risky times of borrowing. As to what's woke and what's not, I don't know that that is something that's part of that, but that's a decision that the town treasurer collector would make with the investment advisor that the town uses. So I'm not sure of the answer to the woke question.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Garwood?
George Garwood, 29 Rodman Road. Who makes these investment decisions, and does the advisory board have input or what?
As far as I understand, the treasurers and collectors have the power to make these decisions, but they hire a high-quality investment firm that works with the treasurer to make the recommendations. So I think more than the treasurer collector, it really comes from the investment advising company, and then she looks at their recommendations and believes if they're accurate or not, and then she carries them forward. But the treasurer collector wouldn't, she's not a stock market, she ain't gonna make the investments on her own. It's by using a financial advisor. Usually they're big banks and things like that.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor of Article 11, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? There being none, Article 11 passes. Article 12, sponsored by the Senior Center. I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5K, Senior Tax Work-Off Program, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to establish a program to allow persons over the age of 60 and a resident of the town to volunteer to provide services to the town, in exchange for which the town shall reduce the real property tax obligations of such persons over the age of 60 on his or her tax bill, in addition to any exemption or abatement to which any such person is otherwise entitled, provided, however, that no such person shall receive a rate of or be credited with more than the current minimum wage of the Commonwealth per hour for services provided pursuant to such reduction, nor shall the reduction of the real property tax exceed $2,000 in a given year, provided that the exemption so allowed may be adjusted by 1, allowing an approved representative for persons physically unable to provide such services to the town, or 2, allowing the maximum reduction of the real property tax bill to be based on 125 volunteer service hours in a given tax year, rather than $2,000. Advisory Board?
Board recommends.
Board of Selectmen,
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
is there any discussion? Kelly, come on. Yeah, you do.
So there has been, I'm Kelly, Senior Center Director. There has been adjustment up, better. There has been an adjustment and a change to the amount that's going to be given or offered. It will be $500 per the fiscal year to start. We decided on that. It just didn't make it to be amended on the paperwork that you have. I did hand out a slip when you came in. So we're looking at $500, not $2,000. Okay?
Yeah, I already read it, Kelly.
Okay.
Could you just sign one of those pieces of paper, Kelly?
Absolutely.
So that's every 2,000, Kelly, every 2,000 I see is going to be 500.
The Senior Center Director gets she can't amend it. Motion to amend it. She can't make it.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to amend the dollar amount in Article 12 to $500.
There's a motion on the floor on Article 12 to substitute in lieu of any $2,000 figure, the sum of $500.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. Article 12 passes.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman.
No, hang
Mr.
on.
Moderator.
I didn't ask you to vote yet on Article 12.
Hold on for 1 second, Mr. Moderator.
Right, yeah, no,
Mr. Chairman, there's a little confusion
I
here.
caught myself.
The actual state requirement for this type of program is to utilize the amount to authorize up to $2,000. We don't need to change it. It's our intention as a local community only to put up to 500, but the state statute requires it to be in this form at $2,000, even though we're not using or giving out the full $2,000. So the amendment would be against state law, so we can't make that amendment would not be allowed.
So would the person who made the motion please withdraw it?
I withdraw the motion.
The motion is withdrawn. Is there any further discussion on Article 12? Melvin?
Mel Norman, 56 Wicklebug Valley Road. My question is, what town department will be responsible for monitoring this, and will there be any salary involved?
So, through you, Mr. Moderator. So the question of that will be the senior center working with the assessor's department to manage the program, with also a supervisor from the town administrator's office. So all three of us will be involved. The expectation, like I said, the state law allows you to go up to 2,000. We're only going to do 500. We're trying to help the senior citizens who are the most needy of this time of credit, and it allows them to use their talents and experience from all the years to actually help the town and be able to abate their taxes to the degree of $500. The salary, the salary is within the department head's job, and the positions are already there. No new position will do this.
Is there any other discussion on Article 12? There being none, all in favor of Article 12, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Article 12 passes. Article 13, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 5, Section 5 of the general bylaws to delete the words mailed or otherwise distributed to every household and to insert in place thereof the words posted in the town clerk's office and on the town's website. Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Greg Morris, 27 West Main Street. I am opposed to this motion. I think it is reducing the availability of information for our citizens to make informed choices at meetings like this. There are residents in town who cannot get the internet to look at things online, who might have mobility issues. Who might have mobility issues that may not be able to make it down to the clerk's office or look at the board outside town hall. This is our best use of democracy, so please protect it.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion? I saw an arm up.
What did he say?
No, we got you. You agree with him. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Isaiah Shalom at 30 Central Street. I also agree with them.
Thank you, sir.
We can't let the physically infirmed be disadvantaged.
Got it. Yes, MJ?
I agree with him.
We have a lot of agreements with him. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Garwood?
George Garwood, 29 Rodman Road. Does this, I'd like to know what particular documents this refers to. Are there specific documents, or this is just like everything?
Town warrant.
Just the warrant?
Just the warrant.
No. Mr. Moderator, it's not correct. This refers to the budget document itself. The problem is it hasn't been mailed out for years, right? So the budget is being worked on right up until this town meeting to get it adopted. So there's really no time to send it to a printer, get it out to all residents, and of course it would cost, postage and printing for all this. But the advisory committee is working on the budget literally right up into today's meeting. So it's just impractical. That's why it hasn't been done for a couple of years. to get that information out. So, my comment, and we talked to them, as soon as it's available, the advisory finishes their work, we could post on the internet, but I don't know how we could do it, given the process in town for adopting a budget and developing it and getting it ready for this meeting. That's why it's being asked to take it off. It just doesn't really work.
Does it refer to the reports also?
No, the annual reports right now, we give out and we have them here tonight. This is strictly the budget document itself. The one you got handed out tonight, that document, literally advisory and Board of Selectmen were working on it right up until the end of last week. So how would you get it to a mail house, print it, copy it, get it out there? It just doesn't, practically, it just doesn't work. As much as we're not against it, it's just, it would, I don't know how you would get the process completed in time to get it out to the public. That's why we give you the document here. We go through it step by step, line by line, answer all questions about it at this meeting. But to mail it out is a little difficult.
Okay.
Is there any other? Oh, MJ, I forgot you.
You're still going to
Yeah,
get the
I
warrant.
missed-
Right now, the warrant, we're giving it to mail, although quite frankly, there's no requirement that the warrant be mailed, but we just do it because we want to inform the public. The budget document, you'd still get it tonight. Nothing would change from the process
Okay.
we've used for years.
Okay. It just the way it reads, it sounds like, you're pulling the plug on all the paperwork. I mean, just because one of the things you want to understand is that it isn't simply people who don't have the internet or who have a disability, but people like myself who've spent a lot of their life in front of a computer don't want to be in front of a computer.
Yeah, no, the budget process is not
I
going
want paper, I don't want to be in front
the
of a computer.
budget process and the information you've been currently getting is going to stay the same.
Good, thank you.
Heather Goff, Town Clerk, 43 Cottage Street. I just wanted to read the blurb in the general bylaws. I think there's a little bit of confusion. I have it on my phone. So, Section 5 states, a printed copy of the advisory committee report, including the omnibus budget, will be mailed or otherwise distributed to every household at least 5 days before the annual town meeting. It was adopted in 1978. So that does not include the warrant. That does not include the annual town report. This is literally just the omnibus budget that was passed out this evening. So, like Ron said, in our bylaws, it does not require us to mail out the warrant or the town report. They just do it as a courtesy. This one is just speaking on the omnibus budget and the advisory committee report.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 13 has passed. Article 14 is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. I move that the town vote to transfer $10,000 from free cash to be placed in the repairs to private ways account to pay for repairs to private ways within West Brookfield pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6N, and Chapter 7, Section 8 of the General Bylaws, and further that all repairs made to private ways will be completed in strict adherence to all applicable state laws and West Brookfield town bylaws. Advisory,
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Article 14 is passed. Article 15, sponsored by the Fire Department. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to file a petition with the General Court for special legislation to approve the extension of mandatory retirement for a firefighter from the age of 65 years of age to the age of 70 years of age for Deputy Chief Daniel Santos, or until he assumes retirement before age 70 years of age, or non-reappointment, whichever occurs first. Advisory,
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Kenworth, 15 New Braintree Road. I would like to know what the difference is between now and 4 years ago, when the Board of Selectmen made Joe Hopkins and myself leave because of the NFPA standards, and the town insurance said we would be a liability.
I can answer that question. So, through you, Mr. Moderator, 4 years ago, I wasn't the chief of the department back then. It was a different individual, and this was beyond my scope at the time. So today, we have the power at a town meeting to vote to approve and petition our state legislation to pass a 5-year waiver for these two individuals. The next article is for Lieutenant Collette also. So that was up to the chief 4 years ago, but for tonight, I'm trying to take care of the two individuals that are on the department now, and that's the reason for that.
But that doesn't answer the question of why the town insurance company says we would be a liability. What changed their mind to let the following two do the same that two of us couldn't do?
So once it passes at the town meeting and at the state level, then the town has the opportunity with the insurance company to approve those individuals to be waivered.
For me, it's personal, and I don't agree with it.
Is there any other discussion, folks? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There being none, Article 15 passes. Article 16, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to file a petition with the General Court for special legislation to approve the extension for mandatory retirement for a firefighter from the age of 65 years of age to the age of 70 years of age for Lieutenant George Kenneth Collette, or until he assumes retirement before 70 years of age, or non-reappointment, whichever occurs first. Advisory?
Advisory recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
I don't know. I think we're just going to probably see
I can answer that. That gentleman does not live in town.
Daniel Esser, 20 Pleasant Street. So my question is, I understand Mr. Santos has been on the department for years. He's been a deputy chief for years. The other gentleman we're petitioning the state to allow on the department hasn't been on for more than 4 years. Okay, does not live in this town. My understanding is he lives in the town of Spencer, 3 towns away. How is that going to be helpful to the town if there's a fire emergency in this town, if he's 3 towns away?
You're a Brookfield firefighter. You live in this town.
Gentlemen.
So I can tell you that Lieutenant Collette does live in the town of Spencer, and Lieutenant Collette, we put him on the department, quite honestly, because he has 40-plus years of experience. He has he's a swiftwater rescue technician. He has an immense amount of rescue training. And with what Lieutenant Collette knows, we brought him on the department essentially as a safety officer and to help instruct. That's what his, most of his job descriptions are.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, sir. Mark?
Mark O'Donnell, Ridgewood Circle. I could speak for Mr. Collette. He works for the Highway Department in the winter. He's an outstanding individual. Comes to plow snow for us, and he's usually there before I am.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of Article 16 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Article 16 is passed. And if you folks would give me 1 second, I have to clarify one point. Sorry about that, folks. Just a little house cleaning. With the town's consent, I'm going to look to combine Articles 17, 18, and 19. And within regards to these three articles, I would entertain a motion to be withdrawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moderator, if I could just explain briefly.
Sure.
So these three articles are not being withdrawn permanently. The planning board and the board of selectmen want to work on these articles. We haven't had enough time to really bring this out to the public and explain this to the public. And we didn't want to bring it forward until we felt like it was vetted some more and the public had more input on this. So we are going to bring it forward. You'll notice that there's no non-recommendation or recommendation, just to hold it until we want to address at least one issue that legal counsel has brought forward and some drafting of the language. So you can expect a later date, but we don't want to bring something up, a bunch of questions, people are unprepared and had voted it down. So we'd prefer to get it perfect and then bring it back. Where the planning board and the selectmen are going to do a joint public hearing for the public so they can come in to discuss this, and we'll bring it forward at a later date. Thank you. So the answer to that question is we expect that there's going to have to be a special town meeting to deal with a couple of union contractual issues appropriation. So generally, we're thinking that in the fall when we think we're going to have to do a special town meeting. We expect that we'll be bringing it up in the fall for a vote. And just to say, a lot of towns don't like doing land use decisions in fall town meetings, but this should be minor in nature, and after we have public hearing, we'll feel more comfortable that it is appropriate for a fall town meeting.
Is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the withdrawing these articles, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? There being none, those three articles have been withdrawn. Now, if Pam is still here, the infamous Article 20. I believe it is the moderator's opinion that this article is way out of order. It shouldn't even be here for discussion because the moderator has no idea what's in it or who wrote it, and I can't deal with that. They should have, whoever did this article, please go through the proper steps. A petition should be presented to the Board of Selectmen for the warrant, and there should be an article placed on the warrant. With that being said, we're getting close to closing up. On your way out, please return all pens and ballots. You and I can talk about it later, okay? And with that in mind, I will take a motion to dissolve this, the annual town meeting for the town of West Brookfield.
So moved.
The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Oh, there's one guy out there.
For the party.